Welcome to Off the Page. I'm Will Cain with Arnold Kling of the Cato Institute. So Arnold and I are talking about capping the size of banks in order to solve some of the systemic risk in bank failures, the too big to fail phenomenon. Arnold, there are some risks. Supposing that the United States government did take a stance towards limiting the size of bank, there would obviously be some risks extending from that. What do you think some of those risks might be?
Well, I guess one risk is that that the smaller banks, they would not be small by any means, but smaller banks would take highly correlated risks, and it might be. It's just speculating off the top of my head. It might be harder for government to follow what's going on. It may be easier for them to keep track of a few big banks than a more complex financial system.
Oh, that's interesting.
But that's pretty speculative.
Wouldn't another risk be that we would, as the United States economy, essentially lose out on the finance industry? That large banking institutions and therefore the banking industry would run overseas to other countries?
Well, other countries definitely have more concentrated banking systems. However, I think the functions of the banks in the United States I think our financial system is more than just banks. It's the attitude toward capital. It's the variety of capital. It's above all the stock market. We have probably the easiest place to raise equity finance of any country in the world.
Right.
So I think it's a stretch to say that we need the super largest banks in order to keep financial transactions here.
So it's okay if they take off. Wouldn't we also be able to say, hey, look, we can drive our own global solution. Everybody wants to do business in the U.S., and therefore aren't we powerful enough to say, if you want to do business here, then you better have the size of your banks capped at the same level we have ours?
I don't know that I would put that kind of pressure on other countries. If they want to deal with large banks and try to bail them out when they fail, that's kind of their business. I don't think I'd want to impose a regime on them. Just that wouldn't be necessary in my view.
So let the banking and finance industry go and let other people deal with too big to fail problems?
I guess, well, I'm not convinced that the banking and finance industry would disappear from the U.S. just because we took the top 10 banks and broke them up into smaller, 40 banks. They would still be larger, for instance, or as large as the Canadian banks. They would still be the largest banks in the U.S. They would still be much larger than any bank was in the U.S. in the 1970s. So I think it's quite a stretch to say that just because we took the 10 largest banks and broke them into 40 banks that all of a sudden we wouldn't be competitive in banking. I don't see why that should be true.
Okay. Thanks, Arnold.